evening, everyone. Welcome to the Finance meeting of Monday, April 8th, 2024. I acknowledge the Shinanu and Sioux First Nations on whose land we live, work, and play. This acknowledgement is only one small part of supporting Indigenous communities, and we continue each day to listen, learn, and act to support truth and reconciliation. Please have your cell phones turned off during the meeting. There are two meetings this evening, the Finance meeting followed by the Council meeting. There'll be public participation at each one. And so topics specific to that meeting can be addressed at that time. Committee, are there any additions, changes, or we got the pinks, okay, for the agenda. Where shall we put that under correspondence? Okay. One slight change to the agenda is under adoption of minutes. 4A says Finance and Environment Committee meeting of November 20th. It's just the Finance Committee meeting. May I have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Mayor Little. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And we have two presentations this evening. The first one is by Maureen, Sawa of CAO, and Shahiri, Khair, Board Chair of the Greater Victoria Public Library. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. Good evening, Mayor Little, council members, and staff. Thank you for inviting us to make this presentation. My name is Shahiri Khair. I'm Vice Chair of the Greater Victoria Public Library Board and a citizen rep for the City of Victoria. With me to present this evening is our CEO, Maureen Sawa. Our Board Chair, Andrew Appleton, sends his regrets. He's unable to join us. He's in his own council meeting this evening. I'd like to recognize Councillor Shelley Donaldson, who is your council representative on the Library Board, and also the board's representative on the Island Link Library Federation. The commitment of all our councillor trustee members to represent their constituents across GVPL's 10-member municipalities is greatly appreciated. Public libraries provide a place where every citizen belongs. The Greater Victoria Public Library Board is committed to working with our municipal partners so that together we can build communities by providing citizens with equitable access to information, services, and resources to learn and grow. On behalf of the Library Board, staff, and community that we serve, I would like to express my thanks to the District of Metchosin Council for your continued support. We are proud of the work we do and appreciate your recognition that libraries do indeed change lives. And now I will turn things over to Maureen for the remainder of this presentation. We look forward to answering your questions at the end.
Thank you, Shahira, and it's great to be here. Thank you very much for inviting us. I like to begin these presentations kind of just as a reminder that Greater Victoria Public Library is a shared service model, which means that including the District of Metchosin, GVPL serves 10 of the 13 municipalities of the Capital Regional District, as illustrated in this map. Our shared service model, funded by our 10-member municipalities, enables residents within each municipality to have free and equitable access to a full range of services that only a large urban library system would normally be able to offer. This means that every resident in our 10-member municipalities has a standard of service that would not be possible for any of the individual municipalities to offer separately. Your place to connect, discover, and imagine. GVPL is truly the definition of the whole is greater than its parts. So just a few statistics from last year to give you a taste of what we accomplished. A few things that aren't on this screen are we introduced additional water bottle filling stations in our branches, so we're very proud of the fact that we've saved, I don't have a current number, but quite a lot of plastic water bottles that never made it to to use because of these water bottle filling stations. They're very environmentally friendly. The other thing that we're very proud of is with United Way, we introduced free distribution of free menstrual products in all of our branches, all 12 of our branches, for both staff and patrons. And as of the end of September, over 18,000 items have been distributed. So again, in our own little way, just trying to provide more supports for our community. Public libraries are the community living room. I'm so proud of the work that we've been doing to ensure that we are a safe third space, providing reliable essential services that meet the needs of local communities. I'd also like to recognize the City of Victoria for introducing a welcome sticker program and making it available to GVPL and other community interest holders across the region. Public libraries are community connectors, and you will have noticed perhaps that in many of the slides we make reference to a report published by the Canadian Urban Institute last fall entitled Overdue, The Case for Canada's Public Libraries. In a related article by Globe and Mail reporter Andre Picard, the comment was made that despite dire predictions that bricks and mortar libraries would become obsolete in the digital age, they have become even more important in recent years as essential community hubs. In fact, the headline of his piece was paying more attention to the health and social benefits of libraries is overdue. And on a related note, in another book, Who Needs Libraries Anyway?, the Boston Public Library reported that one of the biggest services it provides is simply its space, giving people a place to be for free. One of GVPL's largest and best used spaces is the Fuca branch, which serves the district branch it serves as the district branch and home branch for the District of Metchosin. Over the last little while, we've completed a number of upgrades to the public area space. I was just there myself a few weeks ago. It is just such a lovely branch, and it's very, very heavily used. Lots of sunshine, lots of proximity to nature, and very heavily used by all ages. So it is a great service. But I want to just talk a little bit about some of the enhancements we've made to our digital collections, because in addition to our heavily used physical spaces, we continue to experience significant usage of our digital space. Last year, GVPL became the first public library in British Columbia to offer access to the full suite of digital products at newyorktimes.com, including the news, games, and cooking sections. Patron feedback has been extremely positive, with over 25,000 sessions logged in the first 6 months. Last year, we expanded our popular Fast Reads collection to include ebooks and e-audiobooks, leveraging the Overdrive platform, which is GVPL's primary resource for ebooks and e-audiobooks. This expansion significantly improved the experience for library users by providing expedited access to sought-after digital content. And the other thing I'd like to mention is our popular streaming video services, which offer a diverse and extensive collection of digital content, including movies, TV shows, documentaries, and much more. Users can access content anytime, anywhere, using their library card and internet-connected devices. I'm noting that because in previous budget presentations that we've been doing over the past couple of months, it has been noted how important it is for individuals that are on restricted incomes to have access to the public library. So we've worked really, really hard to expand things. Some of you may know that the New York Times subscription, you get your basic one, but it's very, very difficult it's expensive to get the full range. So the fact that you can access it through the library. Other things that we've added lately are online access to The Economist. And as a result of these additions to our services, we hit the 1 million circulation mark on the Overdrive platform in 2023, which was noted in one of the American library journals. Some of this expenditure was made possible through some of the provincial enhancement grants, the one-time enhancement grants that we received. So we are putting them to use so that the benefits can spread right across the entire system. And of course, this was the year that we finally said farewell to overdue fines. At the beginning of January, GVPL became an overdue fine-free library. This was identified by the Library Board as a key priority at the completion of their strategic bridging plan We were one of the last libraries in British Columbia to eliminate fines, and by waiting as we did, we learned from our colleagues and other libraries kind of how to do it right, and we also could demonstrate to the board and to our financial planning that in fact this elimination of overdue fines does not impact at all on the circulation of materials, and certainly the revenue that we were bringing in the last year that we charged was like 1.2% of our overall revenue, but the benefits of making it possible to welcome back people that may have been a little shy about coming back about late fines, that is all gone now. So I believe in British Columbia, of the 71 library systems, there's about 55 of us now that are fine free, and that is the trend across Canada and the United States. So as I mentioned, our strategic bridging plan, building a bridge to a better future. This was the 2021-2023 bridging plan. The board is in the process of embarking on a new strategic planning process, but I'm just going to quickly go over the 4 key goals that we worked on over these past couple of years post-COVID. Public libraries empower and enrich communities, and as I've said, our resources are particularly important. We expanded resources for those with print disabilities, also our world language collection, and we are going to continue working on our equity, diversity, inclusivity, and accessibility strategy to meet the Accessibility BC Act. And again, using some of the enhancement funds from the province, we have engaged with EDIA consultants so that we can review all of our processes and policies. And of course, continue to identify unmet community needs and service gaps in the Greater Victoria area. As I've already referenced, public libraries are community anchors. Again, gradually expanding open hours, hosting more events, reinstating our home delivery service, early literacy programs, and of course working in partnership with groups like the BC Settlement and Integration Services and others. I have to say, coming out of COVID was tough. It has taken everyone a long time, and we're still not quite there yet, but I'm really proud of the work that staff have done and the partnerships that we continue to work on with our community. Bridging the digital divide, one of the things that we're very happy with is our introduction of tech toys, adaptive technology, particularly for children. We were featured at the International Federation of Library Associations last year at their conference on the work that we're doing with tech toys as learning opportunities, and again, equitable access for families to access this kind of material. I've already mentioned our expanded ebook, audiobook, and other online collections, just again trying to ensure ease of access. So I know you've already looked at our budget, but I'll just kind of go over it very quickly. The library board and staff work hard to develop the budget that is balanced and meets needs and opportunities, but also recognizes the reality of our times. I know that our councillor representative can attest to the fact that we have a very hard-working finance committee of the board that does scrutinize things when we prepare the budget the year before, working with our staff and with the full board. We have had the opportunity, as in the past, to take advantage of some of our reserves to augment some of the budget increases. And as I say, as we know, we are committed to leveraging the more than 100 active community partnerships that we are engaged with to expand our programs. So in terms of the District of Metchosen's contribution, I just would like to note that we did request an overall municipal contribution increase of 5.99% overall, which supports equitable access to services and programs. So for the District of Metchosen in 2024, that resulted in an increase, a contribution increase of 3.80% over last year, which is $11,418. Cost per capita increase is $2.22. Finally, just a quote about Andrew Carnegie, who built the first public libraries in North America. They were referred to at the time as palaces for the people. We strongly believe libraries bring people together. We are not the only third place in the community, but we are the one place where people of all ages and stages are welcome to stay and explore as long as they want, spending time, not money. Making life more affordable is a key priority for both the district and the province, and public libraries fill an essential role in providing individuals with equitable access to the resources they need to thrive and strengthen the entire community. And I have to apologize, this next slide is out of sequence, but we didn't catch it until it was too late. But I wanted you to see that one of the things that our staff have worked hard on is engaging all of our 10 municipalities in kind of a community sense. So they developed a series of scavenger hunts for kids and families, and this is the image of the one that they did for Chosen. So it's just kind of a fun activity that, you know, we have books that relate to Chosen, just some fun facts, giving people an idea of what they might want to look for, things to look for in the district of Chosen. So we did one of these for every one of our member municipalities. And now I can say, and that is the last slide now, when you come to the library, as I've said often enough, you have not only freedom, but freedom to belong and discover. So that's kind of our summary, that I know you were interested in knowing what was new and exciting at GVPL, but happy to answer any questions, and our board Vice Chair Shahiri will also come up with me if there's anything you'd like to ask in particular. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Committee, do you have any questions for Maureen?
So Maureen and Shahiri, thank you very much. Just a
Yeah.
broader curiosity, anything that you see in terms of trends, in terms of library use, and of course digital and online is going to be a big one, but anything more specific?
Well, I would say, and Shahiri can weigh in, I am actually quite amazed at the usage of our open spaces, our public spaces. I was at the Central Branch yesterday, Sunday afternoon, which is a large space, and there was not one empty seat upstairs. Every computer was used, every study cubicle was in use, our study rooms, our pods, everything. There does seem to be a real need for that community third space to come to. And I think with increased densification in many parts of the Greater Victoria area, coming to the public library is becoming more and more of a destination. And that, I don't know that I would have thought it would have gone quite that far, particularly those early days after COVID. It was, but at the same time, the usage of our digital resources has just kind of blown up. And I think, Shahiri, do you want to comment from the point of view of the board? Because you did a great bike tour with our board chair last year on all of the branches.
Yeah, we had the privilege about a year ago, almost a year ago, to visit each of the GVPL branches within a single day by bike.
In the pouring rain.
In the pouring rain, the one day rain of the summer. And it was great just to see the kind of scope of usage of all of the physical spaces in the library. You know, even thinking about like digital materials, use of computers. You don't always think of that being a need in the year 2024, but it is providing access to all sorts of digital tools that people need to participate in our society. The library fills that gap. Meeting all the wonderful staff of the GVPL, getting their perspectives, because they all work within their own branches and have their own sense of the unique community needs that they're working most closely with. So it was a great opportunity just to see the wide range of needs that the library fills.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both, Maureen and Shahiri, for your presentation. My question is there any appetite with the three remaining municipalities to be included in the electoral areas, to be included in the GVPL system or family?
It's a great question. Those three municipalities are part of the Vancouver Island Regional Library System, which serves kind of the upper part of the island. It's come up in my time over the years. I think it's a local decision, so I can't really comment on it. You might be able to speak to your colleagues at the three other municipalities to say. I mean, they're in kind of different environments, so I think currently the borough system works for them. But never say never. Yeah.
Thank you. And my second question is does any of the GVPL venues have spaces for rent? I know that Greater Boston Public Library has venue space for weddings and things, and they charge anywhere from 15 to 23,000 for that space, just for the, not for the catering, but just for the venue. Do any of the GVPL have space for that?
Not at this time. There a couple of our branches do have meeting space that was designed to be not in that scale. Like I know what you're talking about. I've also seen the Chicago Public Library. They have kind of an atrium on top, and it's like unbelievable. At this point, we are finding that the need for space for study, individual kind of workspace and tutoring and things seems to be the big push. I would love it if we could. None of our branches are set up in such a way we could do that. But what we have experienced in a couple of our newer branches, for example, the Shwenhuntan-Ho James Bay branch, is as new branches were able to furnish in a different way than our older branches. So the shelving and the seating is flexible. So at the branch in James Bay, we've had a couple of events. One was CBC doing one of their Canada Reads event, and we were able to kind of repurpose the space to be like a kind of a venue for an audience, and that worked really well. And I would like to see us doing more of that. Yeah, for sure.
So one thing, yeah. So I guess just to add on that, like Maureen mentioned. We're at the end of our strategic bridging plan, and we had the chance to spend a full afternoon a couple of weekends ago at the start of our strategic planning process for the GVPL's next strategic plan. And it was a great afternoon. We were thinking about, what's the library of the future? What are these unmet needs that our community has? So thinking about the valuable resource that the library provides in terms of spaces is one thing. Thinking about alternative service delivery models is another. So I think that sort of, there's an appetite for that sort of bigger thinking about how to make new and better uses of our spaces.
That's great.
Thanks very much for the presentation and the work you folks are doing. Much appreciated. Library seems to me to be one of the foundations in our society, and particularly for families, the use of them. I'm curious about, I support a breadth of materials being in the libraries, and I'm wondering, I know in the school system there are stresses and strains around the issues of what books are available to people. And I think of things like banning books or censoring books and that sort of thing. Is that dealt with in the library, or is it a problem? And is it dealt with at the staff level and at board policies, or does it go to the board, or how are you guys doing with it? Are we doing okay, or do you need help? Or what's up?
We do have a collection policy, and we do have criteria for selection of materials. Again, we have a limited budget, and we have to take all sorts of things into account, like is there information that could be available more readily on the internet, like what would be the best format. I find we do have a challenge with just quite frankly affording to maintain the level of demand of physical materials as opposed to digital materials, and I think people, not everyone, but there is kind of some misunderstanding about digital versus print, and digital is actually more expensive. You wouldn't think it would be because it's not a hard copy, but in fact digital licensing and things like that. So we're challenged by just what can we afford. Certainly there is kind of criteria, but I know libraries, particularly in the United States, are facing some challenges. Yeah.
Any other comments? No? Thank you very much. Very much appreciate your being here tonight.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you. And thank you for your support.
Okay, so we have a second presentation this evening. If you turn to page 3 of your agenda, you'll see there's an example of the PowerPoint that will be coming up. So I'll ask Judith Cullington, President of the Fuca Performing Arts Center Society, presenting the Accessibility and Inclusion Study. Welcome.
Thank you so much for including us. So My name is Judith Cullington. I am president of the One Fuca Performing Arts Centre Society, and with me is Matt Carolick, who's one of our directors, also a chosen resident. The purpose of this brief presentation is very simple. It's information. We're not looking for any decisions, just to kind of talk about the accessibility study that you folks very happily helped to fund, brief update on the work of our intermunicipal committee and the next steps for our group. So it has long been our goal to make sure that when we build this centre that it is inclusive and accessible and safe and welcoming. So accessible for people with physical challenges, with mental challenges. Inclusive, safe, welcoming for people who are gender diverse, who are neurodiverse, who are different cultures, different backgrounds. So it's really a kind of a place for everybody. So we felt as we moved forward it was really important to really understand what we needed to do in order to achieve that. So thank you. Through our partnership with the West Shore Arts Council, we accessed funding from the BC Arts Council and also a number of municipalities, including, thank you, District of Chosen, which helped make this study possible. And we were very lucky in that the wonderful consulting team who helped us to develop our feasibility study were also available and helped us to develop our accessibility and inclusion study. And they did this through interviews with people with lived experience. They talked to other facilities to look at what they called sort of, best and better practices, and really kind of tried to sort of, learn through the wisdom of others. So the full report is on our website, and I see that you have copies of that there too. So I encourage you to at least read the summary. I know you guys have a lot of reading material to get through. Just quickly, some of the key findings. One of the things that came through was this very kind of strong community interest in accessibility and inclusion. And you heard the GPPL talking about the same thing as well. The interviews really reinforce the importance of this work. And when we talk to people, they say, good for you, this is really important. This is really important to do at this stage before you even get into the design of the building. Another thread that kind of, for me, very much weaves through the document is what benefits one group benefits many. One of the kind of obvious examples is if you build something with good wheelchair access, it also works really well if you're a parent pushing a pushchair, or if you're somebody who has mobility challenges. I won't go into all of the recommendations, but just some of the highlights. Not surprisingly, of course, the importance of reconciliation and inclusion of our local First Nations. So that very much has to be a guiding piece going forward. They talked about setting up a guiding committee, so a group of people with themselves representing all of those diverse interests that we're trying to be inclusive of, to help sort of as we go through the design process, as we move into the operations, really just kind of give that sort of outside view and say, okay, yep, you're on track. No, you need to be thinking about this. So a group of people who can help us move forward on that. Site selection, some obvious things like needs to be in a place that has good bus access. A lot of people don't have access to a vehicle. Inclusive building design, so something that's designed with natural materials, lots of wood and glass, something where people who are coming to the building can see where they're walking into. Some of the theatres have these sort of big, strong colonial structures up front, and it can be intimidating for some. So something that feels open and welcoming, doing that well. Programming and space design, obvious things like gender-neutral washrooms, having adult change tables. Also having imagery that shows inclusiveness, things like rainbow flags. Having staff who are not only well trained in working with being inclusive, but people who themselves represent that diversity and inclusiveness. And our consultant said, and pay them properly to make sure they stay. Often you get the people who are wonderful, but they don't get paid enough, and they go off and get that other good job. there were a number for me of what I call aha moments through the document. You're all, of course, familiar with the Rick Hansen guidelines for accessibility, and one of the things that we heard loud and clear was Rick Hansen is that's the bare minimum. You need to go above and beyond that. There's a lot of opportunity to do that, and you need to. Designing with dignity. I think it's fairly clear that this gentleman does not feel that the experience that he's having gives him a dignified experience, because there he is facing a row of steps, and his entrance is buried way round the back, and you often see that in buildings where there's a lovely entranceway, but the elevators for people who have access issues are kind of buried in some little corner, and anyway, we need to do it better than that. Supportive technology. A lot of people rely on Wi-Fi technology devices to help with hearing, to help with interpretation, to help with other challenges. So having good Wi-Fi, having supportive technology is really important. Important to have good information before you get to the centre. A lot of people will go online to say, does this building have gender-neutral washrooms? Does this building have quiet spaces where my neurodiverse child can cope? So not only kind of doing it, but telling people that you're doing it so that they know ahead of time. Are you going to be able to offer services in multiple languages, as a for example? The one that just kind of made me go, oh, is the hand dryers. You go into a washroom and you have those lovely noisy hand dryers that do a wonderful job of getting your hands dry really quickly. You have a neurodiverse child who's afraid of loud sounds. That washroom is now off limits for them. So that was one of these sort of, oh, yes, we really do need, and we need the help of that guiding committee to kind of help us work all the way through. So anyway, it's a great study. It will, together with a feasibility study, really help us to move forward. At least one of those faces will look familiar. This is our wonderful intermunicipal committee, which now includes 6 members. The District of Suit recently joined us as well. Councillor App is our wonderful rep from Machosen. We're a group, we meet monthly, and we are charged with getting ourselves towards a grant-ready project. So looking at the operating model, looking at the funding model, looking at location, and location is very much one of the pieces that we're looking at the moment. So, we're looking forward to bringing you more news when it's ready. For the PACS organisation, our focus over the coming year is really threefold. The Intermunicipal Committee, of course, and identifying building partners, by which we mean sort of those who might share space with us in the building. Hiring a project coordinator. We have a grant application out to the Victoria Foundation to hire a part-time outreach coordinator, and we have a fabulous young woman that we're very much looking forward to taking on board. And we do have grant and aid requests out to all of the municipalities to support that. So you will find, when you see your grant and aid package, a request from us to support that, which I hope you will be able to look favourably on. The other piece of this is one of the things that we want our outreach coordinator to do is really reach out into the arts community and start kind of showcasing all of the fabulous things that we have going on here. So we're going to be joining forces with other arts groups around the region, hopefully joining up with probably MACA in Machosen, doing something here, and really kind of helping to showcase all the fabulous talent that we have all around the region. And we have an outreach and marketing study that we're in the process of building that will help guide that work as well. That's it from me. I'm very happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Committee, you have any questions for Judith?
Thank you for your presentation. I was just wondering, have you got any updates on your funding model? have you changed your ideas about how you will get your funds for the building and the maintenance, or is that the same as what you had proposed last year?
Certainly no conclusions at this point in time. I think it's going to depend a little bit on kind of, exactly where we end up and what the building model is going to wind into the funding model. But I think our conversations so far have been consistent that for capital funds, we're looking to the federal and provincial governments and private donations. We are looking to all of the municipalities for contribution towards the operating side of things.
Anyone else? Councillor Gray.
Yeah, not so much a question, but a commendation. I think it's a really great idea to have worked first on the accessibility question. And you've mentioned all of the different things that one might be inclusive about. So well done. I think it'll serve us well, it'll serve you well, serve all of us well going forward. And thanks to Councillor for your work on it too.
Councillor.
I just didn't really have a question either, but thanks for the presentation. One thing that stuck out for me in the accessibility study is the statement that people are disabled by barriers in society, not by their impairments or conditions. I thought that was just really so true and really memorable. And I did enjoy being on the committee. Thank you.
We enjoy having you there.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, the next part of our agenda is public participation. If there's anyone in the community that would like to speak, now's the time. Step up to the mic, state your name and street upon which you live. Thank you. Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to number 4, adoption of the minutes. So page 4 or page 7 is the Finance Committee meeting minutes for November 20th, 23. Moved by Councillor F and seconded by Mayor Little. All in favor? Did you have a question?
I just had a question about
Yes.
on item number 3. It's labeled public participation, but at the end of it says the first draft of the agricultural plan will come forward to council in December 2023. And I'm thinking that the ag plan is a little further along now, but will we see a draft of it before too long?
The final will be presented in May to council. All the drafts are complete. All the public engagements are done, the surveys. Does that answer your question?
I think that does. I was hoping we'd have a draft so that we could provide comment on it, but we can do that when we get it. Thanks.
Okay, so I think I may have already called the question, but I'll call the question. Carried, thank you. Okay, and then I'd like to for us to look at pages 11 to 39 and for us to adopt all of these budget meetings. So there's 5 of them all at once.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Gray. Any questions?
Just had one thing to mention, and that's thanks, Councillor Donaldson, to yourself for chairing all the meetings, and to Mr. Pyatt for his efforts. But also I want to recognize Sam Wellers in the background working on as an accountant working on the file, and that's been very important. But our staff, Boris, Ann, and Teen, have all put a lot of work in, and so doing these all in one batch, I just want to make sure we say thanks to the staff for all the work they've done.
I agree. Thank you very much. That was a good point. Okay, so a call to question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We have received of minutes, page 41, Agriculture Advisory Select Committee of March 25th, 2024. Motion to receive. Motion by Councillor F, second by Mayor Little. Any comments? Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We don't have any business arising. We turn to page 45 for the councilor's update. Just very quickly, the budget meet deliberations are complete, and I thank the committee for that as well as our staff, as Councillor Grace already mentioned. Agricultural plan is, presentation will be in May. There's more that we'll be talking about here regarding the wildlife and human interactions. Community garden, we're looking at excavation to prep the site. We have brambles are coming back again, so we're going to have to actually get those roots out. We've got some fencing quotes for putting a fence up and a few other things that will be happening there. As far as my role with the Wanapeka Water Commission, I have been hosting with some community members. Yes?
Yes. Sorry, Councillor Donaldson. The community garden, just
Yes.
a quick question on that. So do you, I haven't heard much about it like since it was discussed, I think early last year. Are there members? Is it proceeding?
We have a group of people that are interested in getting this off the ground. We did get in, did a work party, getting the brambles out. We have the Windhead work release crew come in, and that's where we stalled. Apparently there's some things buried in the ground that we need to deal with. And so I did get permission from the district to bring in a small excavator, and that brought us into the fall. And so then we ran into, we needed to have a call for, call before you dig. And in order to do that, there's only a 2-week window to be able to do that. And so arranging that and timing with activities that go on at school, of course, Instinct was in full force, and a lot of different training and activities going on at the school, so parking a car trailer with a machine is challenging when you don't know those things are coming up, which is where a community calendar would be helpful on our website. And just basic communication. And then the ground, of course, is too soggy in the end to have a machine out there, so here we are again. So this is where we are still. Yeah, so we've got to get those grounds up, we've got to get some fencing up, and yeah, we'll get there. Once we can get that happening, then we're in good shape. The quote just for the fencing alone is upwards of $5,000, so we're going to have to start looking at grants and that sort of thing. But there's a lot of stuff we can do just to get the place prepared.
Okay, great.
I think the soil is probably in good shape. A lot of pea gravel there, so we'll have to look at what we're going to do with that. So that's where we are with that, so thanks for that question. So as I was going to say, we've had going to be having 3 water talks. We've had one in February, March, and again on April 27th here in the Chambers. That's a Saturday afternoon from 2 to 4. They've been very well attended. The first one was 45 people, the second one was upwards of 55, and hopefully we'll have a full house on the 27th. That one we will have representation from the CRD and hopefully a few other speakers exploring some options of what's available for water resources in neighborhoods specifically struggling with domestic water. So there's more to come on that. West Shore Parks and Rec, just 2 things to mention here. We've been talking with the Tennis Club of Canada to put an air structure over the tennis and pickleball courts. They're wanting us to expand that proposal to be 6 month coverage. It doesn't change any cost or anything. It doesn't cost us at all. They're taking care of everything. So we're happy about that. We won't see anything for probably another year. And what else we can say about that? So I did actually over the weekend get somebody had read the package and wanted to know more about this. The pickleball people were asking when we're going to resurface the tennis courts. That will be happening sometime in the next 2 months. It's all dependent on the weather. So those are some changes happening there. And as we've seen here in the Chosen, trees are coming down. We lost a big Gary Oak right behind the library. So they are having a closer look at, they do have an arborist, but they have a person on staff that has the abilities to assess trees. So we did a lot of brainstorming about that, and I shared with what's happening here in the Chosen. It's climate and drought, disease. There's all sorts of things, but we want people to be safe. We didn't expect this to happen, so I think this is happening everywhere. We're just going to be more cognizant of that sort of thing. So they're taking care of that, and quickly did a very short accessibility tour just here in the Chosen with the fire chief, the CAO, Mike, who is a fellow that's been newly hired with the MCA. In his wheelchair, it was great because he could explain all sorts of things, so I followed him around and watched how he was able to manage what different challenges we may or may not have at the school. So that was pretty cool to see. We do have a feedback. One of our Jim McPherson was with us, so he's taking notes of some things that we need to do improvements on. And one of the things that Judith had mentioned there as well was, we have a washroom over there that is a accessibility washroom, but we don't have a baby change table in there. So there's a few little things like that we could easily take care of. And Capital West has put out their survey. That will be our accessibility group going forward. So there's more to come on that. Okay, and then the final thing on our agenda is the pink that you see, which is in regards to a letter from the Agriculture Committee regarding cougar predation on sheep in the Chosen. We didn't deal with this. We had concerns about this last year. There were over 61 sheep and goats that were killed by cougars. We had quite a detailed and in-depth discussion at the Ag Committee. There's a letter here. I would like to suggest that the Ag Committee sit down with actually I think it was Councillor Gray who mentioned that one of his environmental committees here with us that we strike a subcommittee. However, only one person from NEAS was interested in sitting on the committee, and only 2 people from the Ag Committee. But what I would like to suggest is that we, as a council, sit down with the Ag Committee to explore this with the farmers that are having some concerns. Each one of them represents an area in this community of farms. This is a pretty serious topic. There were solutions discussed at the committee. There were suggestions of perhaps having a conservation officer there as well. We've done a lot of educational things with having Wildwise come in and conservation officer putting on different barrowware type programs and stuff like that. But we're already at the early part of the season right now, and we're up to 40 kills almost. So I know on our own farm, we've just turned our sheep out onto an adjacent farm pasture. So we're okay with the bear where they are, but not for the cats. It's pretty hard to protect them from the cats. Well, they're actually mountain lions, they're pretty powerful creatures. There's quite a good anecdote here from Maureen Buchanan of all the things that farmers have tried and don't work. But there are some other things that maybe we could explore. So I would like to suggest that the CAO, the mayor, and council sit down with the Ed Committee and explore this, if we could, in a separate meeting. If I could have a motion to that effect. We can arrange a time perhaps to do that through staff. Councillor Gray?
Yeah, I wasn't wanting to make a motion. If you want to get that on the table, I just had some other comments to make about the issue.
Okay.
We've kind of talked about it at council already and suggested that MEAS can Ag Committee come to us with some advice, and so I feel like that makes sense. We should just continue down that path. I mean, obviously the cougars are here now and they're killing sheep, and and the bears will be here soon. I think they're out of hibernation, and so they'll be causing troubles presumably later in May. For me, I'm not adequately equipped, really, without some background information from somebody to explain how it is regulated, what are the rules, what are the regulations, what's our responsibility. My understanding is that the district's responsibility is next to none. in a circumstance. We don't really regulate, we don't control, or have much on the go here. But the idea was to explore and see if there was something that we might do. So for example, people talked about fencing, or they've talked about having barns where they go in at night, or they've talked about maybe collaring the cougars with electronic devices. But more talk about that isn't going to help me so much as if some people can dig in on it a little bit and let us know if there's anything the district might do. And I was thinking we might offer some financial assistance or something like that, but I don't know what else. In terms of the request in the letter, they were asking if we might contact the Conservation COS, I think that might be Conservation Officer Service. And it seemed, when I read the letter, that the issue is the response time. And I don't have a problem with sending a letter to the COS, asking them to improve their response times, if that's the issue. But there's a whole, behind all of it, there's the policy. What's the Conservation Officer policy? What's the provincial policy? I don't actually know. And so sitting and talking with the farmers without some information like that might be helpful. Today I received an email from Peter Powles, and Peter was a long-term conservation officer. He's no longer in the service. But he sent a note saying, I've heard that predator-sheep conflicts are picking up again, and that there may be some dissatisfaction with the response of conservation officers. And so he offered to speak to the committee, the Environment Committee in this case, or the Agriculture Committee, about the Conservation Service, how they prioritize calls, the response criteria, the husbandry expectations, the legalities, like farmers have some rights to remove predators on their own initiative. So some background like that. So he could meet with us, or he could talk to people who get from the Agriculture Committee or the Environment Committee, and sort of lift our learnings up. I think though right now, the proposal that MIASC had made, I know in the minutes it says Councillor Gray, but it's actually a MIASC motion came forward after some discussion, and the idea was that maybe there's something we could do. But I think right now we have an acute problem, which is the cougars actually killing the sheep. And so I'm not sure that that longer term study is what we need right now. What we need to do is see if the conservation officers will come more quickly. Peter explained to me that he lives in Machosen, so that may come in quickly, relatively easy in the past. But what about now?
Okay,
so those are my thoughts.
So this is exactly what we talked about at the Ag Committee, and there were lots of different solutions. It wasn't to study it more, it was more to learn, and I think the district needs to be a part of that. I think this council needs to understand how we can actually support the farmers, or if we can. And certainly the response time, but they also, like many other employees and things, are strapped with their resources. And you know, we talked about what is the legislation, what are the parameters and restrictions on dispatching of these animals, and who does that? Well, it is the conservation officers. So what I'm suggesting is that we have them attend this meeting and discuss it. Peter Powles has in the past, and you're right, he lives here. He is newly retired from that job. So certainly we need to know what do we have as resources to be able to support our farmers. That's what I'm asking for, is a sit down at the table. Because I even though I am a farmer, I have limited resources as well, and I don't know all of the legislation. I do know what best practices are when it comes to dispatching certain animals, including horses. There's a new code of practice on that as well that was created in the last half a dozen years for British Columbia. Councillor Shipman.
Thank you, Councillor Donaldson. And I have to say I'm with Councillor Gray on this one. As I read through very impassioned letters, both from the commentary from Ms. Buchanan and then also the letter from the Ag Committee. But it did cross my mind, what can the district do? I think you've answered some of those questions as well today, and I'm very open to sitting down with the Ag Committee. I feel like there's probably more of a functional group that should be formed around this. And I had the opportunity to talk with someone who's involved in has some experience in managing livestock predator conflicts. And she did mention there's significant research that's been done over the years. Interestingly, around some of the points that are raised here from Ms. Buchanan as well. Now, whether these have been tried to the fullest extent or whether there's support that the district can offer, I think we have to explore that. I'm a little cautious about relying too much on the Conservation Officer Service, because I think one of the things that happens is once you've called them, it's an indication that there's a problem or there's a situation, and unfortunately the word dispatch has been used quite a number of times in terms of cougars. So I think it's a tricky, it's a problem. I mean, ultimately, we have a role in this. I think the growers have a role in this, and also the Conservation Service. I have to say, though, the ultimate responsibility for sheep on property are the owners of those animals and the property owners where those animals are as well. So I'd be very happy to find ways that we can support them. One of the things, I was talking to someone earlier today, and they boiled it down to limiting situations that enable habituation in terms of the cougar being able to come back and find easy prey. Now, and to me, that strikes me as probably the nub of the problem, because that's where you have problem cats or problem bears or whatever, that because of habituation to, again, an easy dinner.
So we have identified that some of the reasons this is happening is the displacement of their habitats. There's not a lot that this council can do about that. What we're starting to see as well is, and I'll go back to the day that we did the photo shoot on Perry Bay Sheep Farm. While we were standing there, there was a kill happening across the field. You saw those sheep coming across. That's where that kill was, right next to the trail. So not long after that, well, actually that was the same day, my neighbor up behind me was out for a walk. And so I talked to a lady with a stroller saying, don't go there. He just saw the cougar. Okay, so you know what that day that was. So the other example was there was 3 kills on Sea Bluff Farm Trail. Took 12 hours for a CO to get here. That's a public trail. So we're getting very close to human interaction. Another one was a goat that was killed in someone's backyard while they were out doing some cleanup in their yard, and a child was playing on a trampoline. So it's not just the farmers that are having a problem. This is going to get worse, and do we want it to get that much? Who can dispatch or not? What can we do to help the timeline of the COs getting here? That is one of the bigger questions. And the farmers do have a lot of ideas on it, but they also want an opportunity to be able to speak to council and to brainstorm this. So they have a lot more to say about it, and I would like to give them the opportunity.
Yeah, so in the past we've had direct council to committee meetings. We did with the Parks and Trails this last year actually. So we could have another meeting. So in response to Councillor Gray's, what question about what could we do? One of our biggest tools is advocacy. And so we could arrange a meeting with the Ag Committee and us. We could arrange a meeting with conservation officers as an information meeting with the Ag Committee members and ourselves. There's lots of things that we can do in terms of advocacy. So if the Agricultural Committee would have an appetite for meeting with the conservation officers and us, I would be all for that. I think more education's
I do see the value in that. I think having the conservation officer there would help explain what the regulations are in British Columbia when it comes to that, as to who does what and how and that sort of thing. Councillor, great.
I just wanted to mention that last year we were told that 8 cougars were killed in the Chosin. So I don't know if any cougars have been killed this year, but just because we're talking about the number of sheep killed, I think we're up to 30, did you say 40 now this season?
It's getting up there now.
And 8 cougars last year, so it is a significant issue. I was just feeling that we would ask the advisory committees to work on it. But if you prefer having a council meeting, then I would suggest we get a staff report to lay out what are the issues, what's going on and all that, so we actually have something to talk about. I noticed in the minutes of the meeting, the questions are things like, what is the law? Well, we need to know that before we get to, like, let's get some background study. If we're going to do it ourselves rather than have the committees do it, we can ask the agriculture committee to stand down, and we'll come and meet with them and see if we can figure it out. But I would have thought use the advisory committees, that's what they're for.
Well, that's exactly what I just said, is they have some ideas, and they've also asked for the presence of the conservation officer who knows more about the best practices and the regulations in this province. And I think it's important that we do something like what Mary Lil is suggesting, that the three different parties get together. So you've got a group of people who do have expertise in their fields, but they're also needing more support. They need to understand more. If this council can't do anything for them, they need to hear that.
Yeah, I think certainly in the time of the election, we met with the farmers, all of us did, and we heard there's not a lot that the district does. It's not our jurisdiction so much. And we do have the agricultural plan coming, which presumably will lay out a bunch of things that we might tackle. And so I'm just wondering about, the use of our resources and how far we should go. I offered earlier, I think I want to respond to the letter. So it turns out maybe it's not what's in the letter they're looking for, but instead a meeting. I read the letter and said, great, let's fire off a letter asking for a quicker response. I see no problem with doing that. In other words, action. Do the advocacy now. But if you prefer to wait to a meeting and do that later, that's okay with me too. I'll certainly attend a meeting from myself. I just don't know what I've got to offer.
Councillor Shahiri.
So, thank you, Councillor Donaldson. To Councillor Gray's point, is it worth sending a letter now to Conservation Service, or should we wait to get more information? I personally don't know if I have enough information to understand the issue and be a good judge of what the immediate action should be.
I don't know the value in sending a letter to the conservation unless we're inviting them to a meeting.
Okay.
Because we already know what they can and they can't do. But I think having all three parties in the room has its merits.
Okay. So, Councillor Donaldson, I would move that we request staff book a meeting between Council and the Agricultural Advisory Committee and invite Mr. Powell's, if possible, and the Conservation Service.
Certainly the cost, yeah.
Yeah. And that meeting be held or booked expeditiously. So moved.
Moved by Councillor Shahiri, second. Councillor F. Any further discussion? Marilyn?
Yeah, I think it should be the Conservation Office themselves, because Constable Powell's retired a couple of years ago, and there may be some recent updates, and he can't speak for the Conservation Service because he is retired. So I think it should be somebody from the current Conservation Office.
I think I did throw that into the motion, yeah. But I think it'd be great to have Mr. Powell there as well. He may be able to speak more candidly. Yeah. But,
Okay, so any other comments? Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, and with that, ask for an adjournment to this meeting, please.
So
moved by Councillor Shahiri, second by Councillor F. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.